Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Yashwant Kumar Modi, Assistant Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, JP University of Engineering and Technology. I hope other participants are joining quickly. So, take me liberty to introduce my department by the time other participants join us. So, JP University of Engineering and Technology is the first private university of the state of Madhya Pradesh, and it is situated amid the major cities like Indore, Bhopal, Gwalior, and Kota, and near to Guna on Agra-Bombay Highway. This university has been approved by University of Grant Commission uh, under Section 2F of UGC Act 1956. And the university has also been accredited with grade A by the National Assessment and Accredited Council of India. The Department of Mechanical Engineering at JUET has established in 2008, and almost all the faculty members, most of the 50% faculty members, most of the faculty members, I can say that they are PhD holders, and remaining are pursuing their PhD. Okay, and the department has a wide range of laboratories available with us, and two state-of-the-art laboratory facilities. That is a 3D printing laboratory and computer integrated manufacturing labs are the, I can say proudly that they are the very rare in other institutions of our country. 3D printing technology, as you must be aware about, that this is going to change the manufacturing scenario in days to come. Actually, 3D printing technology has got a very good design flexibility. We can say that it has got infinite design flexibility. Whatever is in our mind, what is our we can think that can be fabricated using 3D printing technology. Earlier with the subtractive manufacturing technology, we have many types of constraints, like we have to check whether this particular feature can be replicated or not. So that problems are not with the 3D printing technology. And with this 3D printing technology, I can tell you that the era of mass customization is going to come back. Means what we mean when we call mass customization is this getting the items as per the customer's requirement. So the days are not away when we will be able to design our own components. Like you can design your frame of specs, or you can design your own bike or car, and then that can be fabricated using the 3D printing facilities available with the companies. Okay, so companies will also be able to produce personalized products using 3D printing technology. So we do have these two machines with our department. One is EOSP 395, that is selective laser sintering machine imported from Germany, and another is Z Printer 450 that is imported from USA, and has the capability to print the full color components. Okay, so our students, when our students get these facilities, exposure to these facilities, they feel very confident while go out of the college and face the challenges in industry. Okay, and another facility we have is computer integrated manufacturing. That is actually a flexible manufacturing system consisting of CNC lathe, CNC milling, robot, automated storage and retrieval system, etc. And all these machines are connected with the help of an automated guided vehicle. So we try to we try to train our students on these state-of-the-art facilities so that they feel very, very confident, and they can know that how automation take place in industries. Okay. So we do also have very good alumni network with us. Many of our alumni are working with a reputed organization across the world. Okay, and so with this, this was the brief introduction of the university and the department. So dear friends, when it comes to choosing any branch of engineering at the time of admission, then a natural question comes to our mind that what is the opportunity and future prospects in this particular branch, isn't it? If someone has passed the 12th examination and he is just planning to do engineering, then many questions are before him, that what branch he should go for, he should take admission in, etc., etc. Okay, so in my opinion, the engineering, we will be talking mechanical engineering today. So you must be aware that mechanical engineering is called as an evergreen branch, isn't it? So what we mean when we call evergreen branch? Evergreen means the mechanical engineers are least affected um, due to the economic ups and downs of the market. Okay, and mechanical engineers have the very uh, better prospects in almost all part of the society, means almost every manufacturing or every every sector, industrial sector. So that's why it is called evergreen branch. But what we have been witnessing since the last few years, that the popularity of engineering in general as well as popularity of mechanical engineering in particular is going down. But what I personally feel is that uh, there is no problem with the engineering. The actual problem lies with the way we are doing engineering. Okay, the way we are doing engineering means the students are not taking engineering seriously. This is not the way engineering should be done. What is the objective of today's student? In most of the student, when I am telling it, then what they do, they start believing in, that one night study. They are not doing serious engineering. They are just interested in getting through the exams and taking a piece of paper that is called a degree, isn't it? That is the thinking nowadays prevailing all over the country. That's why the quality of engineering is going down and down day by day. You must be seeing newspapers carrying headlines, then almost 80% of the engineers are non-employable. Why they are non-employable? Just because they do not have the required skill sets with them that is expected by the industry from them. They didn't have the fundamental knowledge of engineering. So I personally believe that if anyone is very serious towards engineering and taking or gaining the acquiring theoretical as well as practical knowledge in the college itself, then there is nothing that can stop him from getting a good job. So we have planned our today's session in such a way so that our expert speakers will be letting you know how you should study properly and how you can get a good job after pursuing BTech in mechanical engineering department. Okay, so I won't be taking up much of your time, and I should move to next section. Dear friends, today we have with us Mr. Ravi Godavarkar, Senior Analyst, Global Logistic, Corsair Memory, United States of America. And another speaker we have with us is Mr. Uday Mehrotra, Category Associate, Unacademy. So let me tell you that both the speaker of today are basically the alumni of this university and this department, mechanical. Mr. Ravi passed out in 2012, and he has been a Vice Chancellor Gold Medal recipient. And Mr. Uday was also very brilliant student, and he passed out in 2016. I remember how he used to manage the curricular as well as extracurricular activities efficiently. So I would like to welcome both the speakers. And now I would like to hand over the charge to Mr. Ravi. Over to you, Ravi.
Okay. Thank you, Modi sir, for that introduction. It's been a while since I graduated from college, and I haven't had a chance to speak with Uday yet, so we'll catch up for sure. I have a few slides to share. So what I'll do is I'll take you through my journey. I'll go over some opportunities which we see in mechanical engineering and in allied branches. So people have a perspective, students especially who haven't joined mechanical engineering yet, they have a perspective in mind. So I want to change that perspective a bit. And then in the last section, we'll talk about the lessons that I learned in these 8 to 10 years of my journey. Okay, let me quickly start sharing my screen. Okay. Is the screen visible to everyone? I believe.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. Okay. So like I said, I'll just quickly go over my journey. Then we'll talk about some opportunities in mechanical engineering, opportunities in industrial engineering, which is an allied branch of mechanical engineering. Then we'll talk about supply chain, which is the buzzword in today's industry. Very few people know that mechanical engineers and industrial engineers contribute very heavily to supply chain. We'll talk about our role in supply chain, and then we'll talk about some of the lessons that I learned in these 8 to 10 years. Right. So I started my bachelor's in mechanical engineering in 2008. To be honest, I really liked what I studied. But based on my internships, I always imagined a mechanical engineer in a power plant or in a production facility in really hot and humid conditions. Right. So of all the opportunities I had at the end of my BTech, I decided to go with Accenture as an IT analyst. Right. So that's in 2012. The location they gave, Mumbai, played a very big role in my choosing the job. But back then, to be honest, I had no idea about supply chain. I was introduced to the concept of supply chain at Accenture, but more from a software implementation perspective. Right? So Accenture, in my role, I was implementing supply chain softwares for clients in e-commerce, retail, manufacturing, etc. Right? But as I started reading more and talking to people working in supply chain, I was actually very surprised to see that a big majority did their bachelor's in mechanical engineering and did their master's in industrial engineering. And I was not very comfortable as a mechanical engineer to be completely doing an IT implementation. So I decided to go to the US for my master's in industrial engineering. So this was in 2014. Right. So during my master's, I did a few internships, and then I joined this company called SanDisk. Back then in 2016, they had a very good rotations program where they would let you rotate in 3 different departments, and then you get to choose final department. Right. And SanDisk makes semiconductor-based storage products like the pen drives, SD cards, micro SD cards that you use in phone. So after going through all these different rotations, I decided that transportation planning, logistics, and optimization, I liked that the most. So I stayed in that role till 2020. And recently, I got an opportunity with another company called Corsair Memory. They make computer peripherals and components. So basically everything that goes into assembling a computer. Okay. So let's move on to opportunities within mechanical engineering, right? So broadly, if you see within mechanical engineering, we can classify it, or we can look at the subdisciplines as thermal and fluid sciences. Within thermal and fluid sciences, we see the 3 further subdisciplines as thermodynamics, fluid mechanics, and then heat and energy transfer. Right, the opportunities within this subdiscipline it's really vast, the set of opportunities. So you can go into power plants. Power plants can be either coal-fired, hydropower, solar, etc. India is like the booming hub of solar and other renewable energy these days, and that has a really bright future. So generally mechanical engineers, they either design systems and components, or they look at upgrading the different systems and tooling within the plant. Then mechanical engineers are in maintenance. They troubleshoot and collect data, recommend repairs for the different systems, or they are in operations, right? So they look at, say, uh, designs from our suppliers. They look at the bids and contracts that we get from our suppliers for all the different parts and components, things of that sort. Then mechanical engineers have an opportunity to go into oil and gas, right? So in oil and gas, as a mechanical engineer, you study the behavior of rocks. You study the site which needs to be selected to start digging in, setting up your oil rigs. Then you actually work on assembling the oil drill. You decide how much oil can be extracted from the rocks, etc. And as you move up the ladder in your career, you then get into evaluation of petroleum projects, and that's the path you take in oil and gas, right? Then you have design engineering. Now within design, mechanical engineers work on designing products like automobiles. So the picture you see on screen, that's actually a Tesla vehicle, the latest model. You design cars, you design iPhones, basically designing any product, right? So that's the first part you see related to the first subdiscipline, solid mechanics. And then you have a further second subdiscipline called control systems, right? In control systems, we talk about maybe mechatronics. So you talk about designing, testing, manufacturing smart machines like robots, developing systems which enhance human and machine interaction, and they assist in futuristic technology. Like we have robots working in the medical industry. So for all of these design engineering related fields, mechanical engineers need to be really proficient in CAD related software like SolidWorks, Pro-E, things of that nature. Right. And the next sub-specialization within mechanical engineering is manufacturing science. So within manufacturing science, you have, you can either work on advanced manufacturing technology, where you learn about the traditional or the conventional manufacturing techniques, and then you learn about the latest cutting edge technology within manufacturing. Right? And the other subdiscipline is material science. So material science is nothing but the study of characteristics of the existing materials that we have today, and how do you develop and test new materials, right, to make products in future. The picture on top you see on top of manufacturing sciences, that's of a silicon wafer which is used to develop memory chips which go into all the pen drives and SD micro SD cards that you see or that you have today in your phones, etc. So those are the traditional branches of mechanical engineering where most people go, right? But the key message is that gone are the days when mechanical engineers only work in production facilities and shop floors. Every engineer in today's day and life, they need to learn about machine learning, data science, etc., and apply it in their profession. In future, every engineer, be it mechanical or otherwise, will need to learn how to code, even in core fields of mechanical engineering. Okay. Now, having said all of that, let's move to the last and the most, because I'm industrial engineer, I find this to be the most interesting. So the last and the last subspecialization, industrial engineering. So this is basically further divided into operations research. Operations research is nothing but use of mathematical modeling to answer questions like how to maximize profit or how to minimize cost in a business, right? It can be any business. But in a business, you say in a manufacturing business, you have constraints like say on your raw material, on how much production capacity you have in your factory, how much storage capacity you have in your warehouse, or how much transportation capacity you have, like how many cargo flights or how much trucking capacity do you have reserved in your company. And then it could be questions like, you have 5 different products, which products should you sell more? And how should you set their pricing so that your company earns the maximum profit, right? The next subspecialization is production systems. Here, it has everything to do with how do factories operate? How do you design a factory? How to utilize the resources that you have in the existing factory? What would be the best way to make sure all the orders that you are getting are fulfilled with the existing resources, things of that nature. Then the next subspecialization is industrial statistics. Here you basically see, say if in a factory you are working on a unique problem to which you do not have an answer, right? Now you want to experiment on a set of combinations and see what works best. Now, how do you design experiments? And how do you analyze the data that is collected from those experiments, right? So all of that comes in industrial statistics. And last but not the least is information systems. Once you gained all the theoretical knowledge or all the modeling that you could do with the first 3 subdisciplines, the last subdiscipline, it tells you how to use those concepts and develop softwares which can help in decision making, right? So we basically talk about the concepts of databases and data models in information systems. So let's look at the different opportunities or the different areas in the industry where mechanical engineers or industrial engineers actually get to work. So the first is financial institutions, right? So had we had some good industrial engineers or statisticians in a bank like Yes Bank, right? We wouldn't have seen the situation that we did. So the skills that you need to enter into financial institutions as an industrial engineer or a mechanical engineer is really sound understanding of mathematics and computer programming. Okay, so here you'll answer questions like, if borrowers default, can the bank bear the loss? This is called credit risk management. So whatever you see in brackets, that's the actual area of specialization. So if anyone is interested in more information, they can go ahead, Google that, right? Or reach out to me. Then we can answer questions like when or why to buy an asset. So if a company wants to buy more machinery to make products, when and why to buy which asset, right? So that's portfolio or asset management. Then say if a company wants to invest in multiple assets or in multiple products, how do you reduce the risk? And how do you do it using futures contracts? So you lock the pricing, say, of a commodity that you want to sell in future, right? So that's hedging. The other area is airlines. So the skills needed here is operations research, which I just talked about. How do you maximize profit? How do you minimize cost? Things of that sort. Using this, you can answer really interesting questions. Like you have a set of crew with you. You have, say, 10 people, air hosts and hostesses. How do you assign that crew to different flights, right? So that's crew planning and rostering. If you're operating, say, a company like Air India, based on the current demand that you have, how many aircrafts will you need? And say you have multiple classes. You have, say, a business class, you have an economy class. In between the two, you will have something like a premium economy. How do you allocate seats for each of these fare classes to make sure you optimize revenue, even in a situation like COVID, right, where the demand is very different from the regular demand? So those are the questions you answer in an airline industry as a mechanical engineer. Then the next set of opportunities are presented in manufacturing planning. So here, your knowledge of production systems will be really helpful. You'll answer questions like, how much money do you invest in buying new production equipment, right? So you already know, uh, based on the global trends, what kind of demand will you be satisfying, or what kind of products have demand in the next 3 to 5 years. So based on that, you want to buy equipment. How do you allocate the material, raw material, and the, say, the machinery that you have in your factory to meet the current set of orders, right? How do you prioritize tasks, say, which are assigned to one given machine in your factory? So these are the questions that you answer in manufacturing planning. The key word here is planning. So you don't actually manufacture, but you plan to manufacture, right? So that needs a lot of mathematical modeling, and also really good understanding of softwares, because when you plan at a very big scale, and it's very hard to do it uh, with like core spreadsheets or just the regular tools that we learn theoretically in our classes. Okay, and the last, I would say, avenue is what you will see a lot of people enter in today's days and times, which is advisory and consulting. So the skills needed here are your understanding of information systems, say database management systems, and some project management and soft skills. So you'll face questions like, if you go to a client, they'll ask you, what are the industry best practices that will fit our needs, right? So what are other competitors doing within the industry which we can adopt? So that's more like strategy consulting. Then they'll ask you questions like, if you have 5 different software solutions available, which software will fit our budget and needs? So that's pre-sales, right? And once they choose a software, they'll say, this is a software which you have in the market, but we want some changes to it. We want to customize it. Can you do it for us? So that's technical consulting, right? So all of these are a really good fit for someone who has done his bachelor's in mechanical, master's in industrial, or who starts with his bachelor's in industrial. Okay. So I'm sure everyone recognizes the picture on the right top corner. So the buzzword in these days is supply chain, right? So you must have heard our Prime Minister Narendra Modi mention it quite a few times. Now we'll quickly go through supply chain first. Supply chain in simple terms is the steps it takes for a manufacturing company to buy raw material and convert it into something which is used by consumers like us, right? So the key thing to note here is the picture on top, it moves from left to right. That's how products are made. You buy raw material, you transport it to your factory, then you transport the finished product to the warehouse, and then the last one is the consumer, right? That's us. The key thing here to note is the arrow on top, which is going from right to left, right? So before we actually start making the product, information needs to flow from the consumer to us, right? So let's take Zara as an example. I'm sure everyone knows Zara as a brand, right? Clothing brand. So what happens with Zara is design and marketing teams, they first look at the global trends, right? And they come up with some clothing designs. These guys could be anywhere in the world. Now these designs are sent to the factories across the world. Factories purchase fabric, other raw material, and they send them to manufacture, right? Manufacturing facilities make all the clothes and they ship to their headquarters in Spain. So that's the key point. So they have one single headquarters in Spain where all the clothing is shipped. Now each country where you actually can buy Zara's clothes, the regional sales there, they tells the headquarters what clothes do they need, in what quantity, and in which particular store. then we, the consumers, go to the stores and purchase those products, right? So you see the cycle here, it follows the exact same pattern that we have on screen. So that's supply chain in a nutshell, right? And industrial engineers, mechanical engineers, they're already playing a really big role in supply chains today. And in future, with manufacturing picking up in India, and especially with our government's emphasis on local manufacturing, local supply chains, we'll have a really, really big role to play in supply chain. So let's quickly look at the role of industrial engineers in supply chain. So like I said, let's start from the right. That's where the information starts flowing from. And that's where industrial engineers should focus, right, on planning. So we first look at demand planning. So demand planning is basically looking at the global trends, right? So we just want to understand what's in trend in the market. How much of what product should we sell and when, right? At what price do we sell? What if we are not able to sell that much product now, say because of COVID, right? The demand has gone haywire. How much do we sell more later to make sure that our companies meet our revenue target? So with this, finally you are able to come up with an estimate how much product are we going to sell. Then the next is inventory optimization, right? So here you want to see what can you do in your warehouse to save some money, right? So what, how much, and when uh, do we order product like from our suppliers, right? So we want to purchase raw material from our suppliers, but we want to first make sure we look at what is in our warehouse, right? So should we order, or can we just transfer something from other warehouses, right? So do we really need to spend money on buying new raw material, or do we just transfer? Then the next is supply planning, right? Here we want to make sure we have enough raw material, enough machinery. If we don't, then we want to make sure we are ordering, or we are satisfying the correct orders, to make sure we make the most money. And the last is transportation. You have multiple modes, right? So we transport through ocean, we transport through air, uh, but air is obviously more expensive, especially in times like COVID. So how do you choose your mode of transportation? And how do you know how many warehouses do you need to have in the world globally to make sure you satisfy all your customers, right? So these are some of the questions which industrial engineers answer, which I have been trying to answer in my companies for the past 5 years now. So any questions on these, you can definitely reach out to me. So before I hand over the platform to Uday, let me just take you through the lessons that I learned in the past 8 to 10 years. I would say the most important are soft skills. And obviously, if you have joined an engineering institution, you are expected to work on the technical skills too. But we underestimate the soft skills, right? So the first soft skill is networking. Connect with your alumni and others in your area, even if they are not your alumni, right? Others in the areas of your interest. Make sure you connect with them on all social platforms. Make sure you reach out for guidance. You ask for them about career advice. Okay, so the next lesson I learned is to market yourself well. Make sure you have your LinkedIn set up, you have a one-page resume. Remember, even one of the most richest persons in this world, Bill Gates, he has a one-page resume. So don't go overboard selling like 3-page, 4-page resumes. Make sure you have a portfolio to display your projects and learnings. That's very important. In today's world, I'm sure everyone has heard of GitHub and such. Even as a mechanical engineer, you can showcase your projects there. And make sure you polish your case study solving. So in most interviews that you want to crack, be it PSUs, be it even for masters, right? So you will end up having a personal interview, and in all probability, you will end up solving a case study. So make sure you polish that skill. Technical skills, don't take your academic coursework lightly. Seek advice from your seniors, seek advice from your professors. Make sure you choose relevant coursework. Don't choose courses just because they are easy. Choose courses which will help you later. Tools and certifications, make sure you learn tools which are relevant in the industry. I'm repeating again, coding is absolutely necessary for any engineer in today's times, right? So for industrial engineers or mechanical engineers, uh, Excel, VBA, regardless of what field or what job you get into, you will definitely use Excel. Right? So make sure you learn Excel, VBA. Make sure you learn SQL. Uh, R, Python, I use it as an industrial engineer. As other mechanical engineers, you must be using different softwares. But make sure you choose the right tool certifications and learn them. And last but not the least, internships and applied projects. Work on as many real world problems as you can and take it to the portfolio that I talked about earlier. So get results, work on applied projects, showcase them on GitHub and others. Make sure you have a good resume. Okay, so that's all I had on my end. I'd like to pass on the mic to Uday.
Thank you so much, Ravi sir. So should I start, Modi sir? Okay. So your mic is not on.
Okay, sorry. I just welcome Uday to take the session forward. Yes, over to you, Uday.
Thank you so much, sir. So first of all, I would like to give you a brief introduction about myself. How my name you already know, Uday Mehrotra, and I joined JUET Mechanical Engineering BTech course in 2012. I passed on the course in 2016. During the entire BTech course, I was very much interested in, definitely about the course also, but I was also more interested about other activities which are going on, especially the ones which are very, latest technology of mechanical engineering. I was more interested to that. I was interested about automobiles, how they work, how they function. With the help of the teachers, I started learning about automobiles. There are some competitions for college students called Baha SAE, where we have to make ATVs and go-karts. We formed a team. Our team worked very, very hard, very well. And we, made some automobiles also in colleges. I think in all, I was in total of 3 teams. We made 3 petrol-driven vehicles in college. That was a very beautiful time, very beautiful learning as well, and it helped me a lot. The entire college journey and all the extracurricular activities helped me a lot in gaining, gaining in terms of my personality. Then later on, my job, I was also interested in additive manufacturing technology, which Modi sir also, clicked on. So many of you, those who are new and do not know about additive manufacturing, you must be knowing the term 3D printing. It is called layer by layer 3D printing. It is very common. If you type 3D printing in Google or YouTube, there are multiple videos. There are very fantastic videos that will come up. So when I was learning about 3D printing, it is an elective subject in JUET. I got that, I took that elective subject, I think during the 4th year. And I learned about 3D printing also there. Then it was all theoretical. It was all very fascinating, very theoretical. And I decided I have to make my career or my job profile either into automobile sector or 3D printing sector. I had to search a lot. I would not lie. I had to search a lot to find a job. But while I was searching, I did my research well, and I researched about many companies, which are doing, as a startup, which are, developing in India. When I was doing my research, I was astonished to see the fact that there are multiple startups in India, both related to automobile and 3D printing. So I put down a list of all the automobile sector companies, startups, their email addresses, the phone numbers that I could get hold on. So just to name a few, there were ethereal machines, just to name a few of 3D printing. So Divide by Zero, Fractal, Ethereal Machines, these were all startups, 7, 8 startups, which are going very well. I contacted all of the founders, similar with the case of automobile sector. Especially they were making the electrical vehicles. They were not very popular at that time. They were still at the growing stage because of various drop downs, or sometimes the battery was not there. India was not manufacturing batteries at that time. So they were somehow getting the things and assembling and designing new category vehicles. Right now, as we speak, many of those startups has grown like very big. They are millionaire startups. And hence I decided to go into additive manufacturing sector. Once I entered the additive manufacturing sector, the difference was very huge in terms of what theoretical knowledge I gained from the college and what was the practical usage in terms of Indian market. So earlier when we were studying, we only thought about 3D printing or prototyping as just a new technology of mechanical engineering, which is used for just prototyping purposes. If you want to make some prototype, you use 3D printing. But I was very fortunate to get involved with multiple clients out there, and in variety of profiles. For example, there was a doctor, lady doctor, and she was making a cure of skin cancer. She was still in the development stage, and the fact that she cannot test that skin cancer medicine on any human, and it will be not good to test the medicine on animals. So she opted for 3D printing solution. She wanted to print a prototype of human skin related to the patient, and then she wanted to test that medicine on that. I do not know where the research is going on right now, but still there was a very good way ahead. Again, I met another startup held by all the doctors. All of them were doctors in that startup. They were making machines which can detect cancer in the spinal cord, which is very hard to detect in terms of very normal way. So they were making the machines, and all the machines were 3D printed. Every part of that was 3D printed. Since they cannot mass manufacture the machines, because you do not have the demand of 50,000, 100,000 machines in India. There were only demand of 90 to 100 machines in all over India and all over the big hospitals. So they decided to opt 3D printing as the major manufacturing technology. It was not a prototyping technology at all. It was a manufacturing technology. Just to give you another example, I met artists, definitely they use, we all know that. But I met an architect who bought 40 3D printers from my company, from me. So I was very amused to see the fact that he was manufacturing, he was an architect, very famous architect in Mumbai, very, very famous architect. He was designing the entire, customized clubs or coffee centers, what you can say, according to the customer needs. And during his one of the project, he made a 30-foot pillar with a 3D printed model. Obviously, he used some other technologies as well to reinforce the pillar. But the fact that he was entirely manufacturing the entire room with the 3D printing technology and 3D printing machines was mind-blowing. He was using those 3D printing machines to make the entire bathroom, bathtubs and all, very other things as well. So what I want to say is how the market grows. Once the new technology comes in, we see, okay, this is only for the certain category of things. But right now, if you see, generally, there are multiple startups which have come up since I passed on in 2016. All of the startups are very famous and they have become very big. The 3D printing market in general in India has grown a lot, but still there is a very big potential out there. Then again, there were some questions related to pandemic situations, and I would like to give you a short example that how can you take some adversary and turn it into a goal. Like once the pandemic started around the lockdown started around March, you must have seen all the face shields what the policemen and the traffic signal guys they wear, and now they are very common. First they were only given to the policemen and all. They were first 3D printed in India. So they used to 3D print the strip, they used to make a shield out there, and they used to sell those shields. Many of my friends who are the entrepreneurs, and they are the founders of many 3D printing companies, they started selling out like hundreds and hundreds of face shields out there in Indian market. Now, what I'm learning from them is they are getting into the market of swab machine manufacturing, which is used for testing corona patients. The testing kit which is there, the part of the testing kit is manufactured using 3D printing technology, and they are mass manufacturing it as well. Now, in terms of multiple categories of 3D printers, theoretically I saw, okay, SLS is there, SLA is there, metal 3D printing and plastic 3D FDM printing is there. Now, the entire 3D printing world is changing. What I used to study during that time and what is right now in the present market is totally different. Their machines have come up like 20 crores, 40 crores worth of machines, which can 3D print a metal within a span of 1 hour or so. Like these are machines out there in the market, and these are in huge demand. Later on, when we talk about the future scope of mechanical engineering, definitely there are going to be multiple startups in India. All the startups will require different design technology, different designing, different prototyping. Mass manufacturing will slowly go down. There will be a time of customization process, and for that, the new technology which is coming up in mechanical engineering will take over the entire traditional way of manufacturing. So, as Modi sir said, that why is it an evergreen branch is whatsoever the market is, there will be a technology related to mechanical engineering which will overcome the old technology. That is why it is an evergreen branch. Now, this was about the job profile which I was doing earlier related to 3D printing. Currently, as Modi sir mentioned, that I am in Unacademy, which is an online learning platform. Again, in terms of COVID situation, my company Unacademy has grown approximately 350 to 400%. I am just a small member of my team which takes care of GATE and EAC departments. Now, GATE and EAC, all those who don't know, all those students who don't know, just like you give IIT and IIEEE exam to get into a good college after your 12th, similarly you give IES and GATE examinations after your graduation, after your engineering, to get into either a good MTech college, IITs and IITs, or if you want to have a good job in PSUs related to government sectors. If you want to do either of the two, you have to give GATE and IES category examinations. Now my team is handling GATE and EAC examinations, and we currently are associated with one of the legends, all the legends in all the branches of India. For example, in mechanical, we are associated with Praveen Kulkarni, sir. He is the god of mechanical engineering. Students call him that. For electrical, we have Kaiser Rafiz, sir. For civil, we have Jaspal sir, all in our team. Saurabh Pandey sir is there. So my entire team works together, and we guide the engineers. It might be second year, third year, or fourth year students, or a dropout student, but we guide them how to crack GATE, how to crack the IES, what is the importance of IES, and what is the importance of GATE. If any of the students have a particular question about that, I would like to answer that in particular. But in general, I would say, if you want to get into a good college, or if you want to know more, you want to grow your understanding better, try to have your own research done. You sit in your home and you have your laptop, you have the internet connection, research more and more about what you want to do. Talk to your people, talk to your cousins, might be your first cousin, might be other members of your school, your seniors, and try to understand the market. Why I am saying market is the driving force of engineering field. If the market is not there, engineering field doesn't work. Engineers always work based on the market scenario. Try to understand what is going on right now. I can see there are questions like data science and AI technology and all. So try to understand why is it better, how it can be more efficient in your skills. Try to develop your skills. I think Ravi sir also mentioned there. So try to develop your skill while you are going through the college, and after you go through the college, try to develop your personality as a whole. So any questions? If you have any questions, or Modi sir, if you have any questions, I would be willing to answer them.
Yes, Uday, I have good number of queries. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so I have good number of queries regarding regarding competitive examinations. Many of the participants have raised questions regarding if due to financial crisis they are bound to join a job and parallelly they want to prepare for competitive exams like this GATE and IES etc. So please provide some tips to them so that they can effectively
Uh,
prepare for this.
yes, sir. While we were, passing out of the college, this was the major challenge that we faced. I also went to study for IES and GATE categories. I gave CAT 3 times. I qualified all the 3 times, but the rank was not enough to get into PSU. At that point of time, this was my doubt also, that why not to get into a company and then study for GATE. Modi sir, right now the scenario is after the pandemic has started, there are multiple companies which have opened their platform, live platform, and students are approaching that thing. And since you mentioned about the financial issues also, just to give you a brief, if you go to a traditional institute for cracking these kind of examinations, government examinations, versus if you go to a online platform, the kind of input that you get is 10 times more and the money that you pay is 5 times less. So these are very cheap options, and these are very good options in terms of studies, and you have the hold of studying at whatever time you want.
Yes,
You
definitely.
can. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And another question, interesting question has been asked by participant that how will artificial intelligence affect the mechanical engineering in future?
Right. I would also like to Ravi sir to answer this, but I would like have uh, see, in my company, an academy, the platform which is there is based off AI technology. So definitely AI technology is going to be a boom in upcoming future. But any industry, any company, any startup cannot have only a mechanical engineer running that whole company. There will be a combination of multiple engineers and multiple factors which goes through driving the company. So definitely AI is the future, but applying AI is definitely going to have a boost for mechanical engineers in the platform as well. Ravi sir, would you like to
Sure,
contribute here?
sure. So with the limited time, I may not be able to fully justify what I want to or how I want to address this. But if anyone has any questions, look for Lights Off Manufacturing by SanDisk Shanghai on YouTube. Okay, so the buzzword is lights off. So you want to manufacture, it has to be lights off, round the clock, 24/7. Uh, Even if you have overlapping shifts of 8 hours or 9 hours, you still won't get the efficiency that you get with robotic arms and robotic machines, right? Then you take it one step further. You have done manufacturing, but what about the planning that goes behind the manufacturing? That has to be lights off too. So if that has to be lights off, you have to build softwares with advanced planning capabilities, which need machine learning and artificial intelligence. So currently what we are doing is we have a lot of user input. Now we want the softwares to look at the historical trends on their own, make adjustments on their own, and make the next decision. So only if there is a critical breakdown somewhere will a human interfere. Otherwise, it will all be lights off without human interference. So, which is why I try to emphasize time and again that you cannot escape coding, you cannot escape data science, you cannot escape AI, regardless of what branch of engineering you are in, especially in mechanical engineering. You have to learn data science, machine learning, etc. Just make sure you research well and see like how to apply what you learn in the industry or in the projects that you want to do.
Yeah, rightly said, Ravi. I'm not getting exactly the name of the company. I think it is Hitachi who has already executed this concept, implemented the concept of lights out factory. They have shut down their factory for 30 days or so. I have read somewhere actually. So artificial intelligence basically play a very important role in industry 4 that is to come. In industry 4, like what we have discussed, 3D printing, etc. So using the in combination with artificial intelligence, one can control the entire manufacturing setup remotely from sitting at home or in office, etc. So artificial intelligence is going to be very crucial uh, in near future, I think. So that's from my side. And there are some other interesting queries, like some of the uh, attendees have asked that what are the which has the better future prospects, BTech in mechatronics or in BTech in mechanical with auto specialization? Another a specific question, but I think you should share your idea.
Sure. Uday, would you want to take it, or shall I give my bit real quick?
You can go ahead.
No, you can go forward.
Okay. So I would say, so I tried to brief about both mechatronics, and the other one I think is about automobile, right? So I would say if you want to get into any of the allied branches of mechanical engineering, make sure you plan for a master's degree at some point in time later, because mechanical is a very broad engineering branch, and like any engineering, it only teaches you the theory. You need to get into the specialization later. So I would say research well, and make sure you go for your master's if you want to go into any of the allied branches of mechanical engineering.
Another interesting question which has been raised by many participants is that under the pandemic situation, many freshers have lost their jobs and they are sitting idle at the home. So they are just asking that what should they should do so that they can get a good job again. What strategies they should try now?
I was expecting this question, which is why I made my last slide. Lessons learned, right? So make sure you network well with your alumni. Make sure you emphasize on your, not just on your LinkedIn and resume, but you have to have a portfolio to display of all your learnings and academic projects, applied internships, everything. Make sure you learn the right set of tools while you're sitting idle at home. I won't say you're sitting idle, but you're there for a reason, right? So make sure you utilize your time well, convert it into projects, and don't think you're sitting idle, right? Freelancing is a very big option in today's time. If anyone likes your projects on GitHub or say any other open platform, you'll definitely get a call which pays you more than a regular salaried job. Okay, so best of luck for everyone who is waiting to get into the corporate world.
Next question is that what is the possibility for India to become a manufacturing hub?
Sir, I can see a very good possibility here. India के अंदर there are multiple startups which are opening.
Yes, yes.
India may related to very variety of fields. So again, I would say just an example कि जिन लोगों ने PPE suits बनाना नहीं देखा था, many of whom I know are making PPE suits in India. They have started manufacturing PPE suits. Every situation, whether it is pandemic or whatever it is, always there will be an opportunity which is booming. So again, you have to get involved into skill set. You have to know the right people, as Ravi sir said, and you have to get into that. About manufacturing, I can see the central government also is playing a very big role here. For example, related to 3D printing, they have started ATL labs, Atal Tinkering Labs. Now, what these labs do, from the age, from the 5th standard onwards in schools also, they are, teaching students so that they should have a basic understanding, very, very basic understanding of additive manufacturing and all the other variety of future manufacturing technology. Very basic understanding. And they are also making some of the very good labs where every district should have one 3D printing model, one manufacturing setup, a small manufacturing setup, so that the young generation can also learn about it. So government is also keen. I can see the youth is also very much interested in starting up for that.
Our next question is specifically from Ravi. I think one attendee is asking that, sir, I am a graduate of mechanical engineering in 2020 and want to pursue IE in USA. But right now the situation is very volatile in USA. What should I do? Or any suggestion on this?
So I would say don't make it specific to one particular country. Because of the immigration issues in USA, you should explore other options. So there, if you are not interested in giving GATE, which is obviously tied up to India, you can look at opportunities in Canada or in Europe. But apart from choosing the country, you should make sure that you use this time well and build your profile instead of letting those gap years accumulate. If you don't want to get into the corporate industry, try to get into try to learn some courses, get some certifications. I'm sure Uday will help you understand how to partner with one of these platforms like Coursera or others and get some useful certifications. Make sure you get some applied projects under your belt, which will help you in your statement of purpose and other proofs which you submit at the time of your application.
Okay, and I think we are running out of time, but before we close the session, I think this one more query we should take up. And Uday, I think you should throw some light on scope in MBA or MTech after pursuing BTech in mechanical engineering. What is the scope? Means for what one should go for, MBA or MTech after BTech in mechanical?
Okay. Sir, I first यहाँ पे बच्चे का mindset is of great importance. Now, whether he wants to opt for a government job, whether he wants to opt for officer's profile, IES category, or he wants to pursue a private job.
Yes.
If he wants to pursue a government job, first of all, definitely mechanical engineering is the best branch. Because in Indian government, whatever sector is there, railway or variety of sectors are there, the highest number of vacancies is always for mechanical. Now, if the person is keen to get into that, you should definitely opt for IES categories and other. Otherwise, even if you want to pursue a technical based job, either in PSUs, then also you can do MTech. But simply, if you want to go for a good management profile, then definitely MBA is the best option. No need to go for MSc or MTech profile. So it's about the personal choice of the student, what he wants to pursue in that sector. It's not about how much money you will earn.
Okay, so I think we have reached at the end of the session, and I would like to thank all the participants for joining us. I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Ravi and Uday for sparing time and joining us today. I would also like to thank Mr. Gaganjit and team of WOW for providing all the supports in organizing this webinar in a successful manner. So I think these participants are giving very good feedback that they are quite satisfied. The webinar is quite satisfactory and quite informative, excellent. They are saying all these things. So I think we could address a majority of the queries of the attendees, and hope the webinar is very informative for all of us. I think should we and close the session? Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
For joining us. Thank you. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Uday. Thank you, Gaganjit.